closer.
Our daughter is here too. So outside of Brian, you're not here to see me. I know you're here to see Brian. But
we love you too, Connor.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So second most important thing is we're going to do a really cool giveaway at the end today. It's going to be really professional. What you're going to do is just write your name really quickly with your last initial on this piece of paper, and then we will be Ouija board picking.
We're gonna go live really soon. Can you hear me? Can I see some comments back here? Can you hear me? Is the mic working? Can anybody say in the comments if the mic is working? Are we looking good, people? Mic working? Give us a thumbs up in the comments if the mic is working.
9 years ago, my partner Dave, if anybody's seen any of our videos, if you've seen Dave,
Connor's talking right now, and then I will get on. So I'm going to mostly be paying attention to the live audience here, but we will be taking questions at some point, and hopefully we'll have somebody here to help out with the questions. Oh. I think it's better to go vertical for this.
When we started Priority Bicycles,
oh, it is
vertical. It was a low maintenance 3-speed bicycle that we would sell online, and the company would be 3 people. We're around 27. We have 60 different models, and somehow we have a bike packing bike. And so we never thought that even something like this would be a part of what we would do.
How does this look? Are we looking good?
We've been lucky enough to meet Ryan, who we randomly met on a press trip 5 years ago.
These
He didn't
people are
want to
saying
be there.
perfect.
We were putting studded tires on bicycles in the hotel room. It was horrible. But the partnership, Ryan started then.
Good now. I'm so happy that you're all here. This is exciting. We're going to be talking about adventures, the book, Rwanda, whatever you want. Let's do this.
Quarter mile away. I XtraCycle, Priority, Duzer, and Gates. There's no interpretation. You have Gates patched on your jacket. So Gates Carbon Drive, our belt. If you're ever out on your rides,
look good.
It's really great for us. It's really great for that. Obviously,
yeah, it does sound good.
Part of our product. So thank you. This is XtraCycle team. Jamie, Steve, Joe is here. Jamie back there. Steve back there also. So
the local boys from XtraCycle.
our team, we have Greg right here.
Is that better?
Who's always late. He'll be here sometime.
Check. Does it sound? How's it sound? How's it sound?
So
do we sound good? Do we sound good?
Sounds like it's rubbing on.
Yeah, people are saying audio.
So if you miss out tonight, you did not miss out completely. We don't have any of the portfolios shirts for sale here.
Is the audio better? Is the check. Audio. Check, check, check. Hello, hello, hello. All right. No bueno. How we doing? I'll get on stage soon, I promise. If nothing else, we can put the camera close to me, use the camera on there, and then that'll be fine. Check, check. Set it down, mate.
Any other questions that I might be?
Check, check, check. How do we sound? How do we sound? Audio going in and out. Can't hear the speaker even. It's clear. They don't know that the mic's on there. Check, check, check. We could just pick the tripod a lot closer. Okay, we're gonna fix this out.
Yeah, and there might be time for a little refuel of drinks.
Yeah, don't be shy. All right. This is like a huffy from Walmart. Audio is back and no more popping. Okay, all right. Do. Here, we're gonna bring this camera's gonna. This is live. Hey, say hi, everybody. You are live on DuzerTV. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Look at all you wonderful people. Okay, so this is kind of gonna be a little intrusive. It has to be, unless. Okay, is that okay? Ruin the vibe with that thing right there.
If you don't have a camera in your face, we don't recognize you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we are here live in Mill Valley. Thank you. I'm actually talking to these people really quickly, and then I'll address you. Live in Mill Valley with a live audience of wonderful people that came from all over the world. And thank you for watching here on YouTube. Let's get started. What do you say? I'm not going to be able to pay attention to a lot of your questions here because I'm going to be playing to this real live audience, but we'll see later if we can get some of your questions incorporated into this talk. Okay. All right. I guess I don't need this mic on. We're not using this anymore. Hi, everybody. So, hi. Oh, am I going to use this? Just try this. Yo. Oh, wow. Here we go. I'm just going to sit here. This is going to be fun and casual. And it warms my heart, first of all, that you're all here. It really has been fun to meet a lot of you out there this afternoon, this evening. Some of you went on the trail ride today. We had a wonderful time up in the hills, the Marin Headlands. It's just such a stunning landscape. You know, I'm from Boulder, Colorado, which is a very nice place. People go there because it's so beautiful, but it's next level. So if you are from here, wow, you have a wonderful backyard. It's absolutely stunning. Yeah, absolutely. So I want tonight to be fun. I want it to be interactive. If you have questions, don't hesitate to interrupt me. You know, pretend that you're just like hanging out with your buddy and we're at the dinner table and you just interrupt whenever you want. And it really, you know, I make these videos on YouTube and I share them with the world. And when I first started doing this, you know, nobody really watched my videos. Like my mom watched it over and over and over. So I'd get like 7 views per video at the very beginning. And some of my friends, but I never dreamed that it would get to this level where I can fill up a room in Mill Valley, California. This is really, it makes me so happy. Thank you. And it makes it feel a lot more real when I can see you and hug you or handshake you and be like, wow, it's good to know that there's real people out there on the other side of the YouTube experience. Because when I make these videos, I'm making them in the middle of nowhere many times. I'm talking to myself through a camera. I don't know who's out there. But when I come here and I see you, now I know who's out there. It's you. And all your smiles make me so happy and it fills my heart. And I feel like the luckiest guy in the world to be able to do what I do. I would like to give a shout out to some people who have traveled long and far to be here today. And you know, I know a lot of you are from Mill Valley. A lot of you came from Sacramento, what? Right? And Fresno and Davis Northern California mostly. Reno. We got some Reno people in the audience. We even have a woman came from Texas. Yeah. And came all the way from Texas to be here. I'm sorry her husband couldn't be here to join us, but he's the one that he sent her. Go to this event and meet Ryan. And so she's here from Texas. And where else? Portland, Oregon. Well, I know. I'm waiting for that one. And there's actually somebody here who came all the way from Guam. Yes. My man. He's sitting right there. He got a wonderful smile. He flew many, many hours to be here today. He went on the ride with us today. We had a lot of fun. He's a good sport. And thank you so much. You know, it doesn't really matter if you came from long or far. It just matters that you're here. And that means a lot to me. And you know what sitting here means to me and looking at your faces and seeing your smiles? It makes me feel better about the world. Because sometimes when I get overwhelmed with the news and the things I hear day to day and the division and all of these scary things that are happening in the world, it weighs on me. And then I come here and I see you and I hug you and I shake your hands and I'm like, you know what? We're all good, right? We're gonna be okay. If we have people like you on this planet, and it feels like everybody that I've met so far are just like good-hearted people that are out here just to be contributors to society and to their communities, and it really means a lot. So thank you. So I want this to be fun, like I said, and don't hesitate to ask questions. I will start off by talking about some different things and different stories, and then from there I want to open it up to the audience so you can actually like interact with me and not just hear me talk the whole time, right? Okay. So we're here to celebrate my book. Which is another dream come true. It's been a really big year, and creating this book was an absolute labor of love. And some of the questions I've been getting about it are like, why did it take 17 years for you to write this book? Because the adventure, wait, I know, you're not even 17 years old. I did the adventure back in 2005. And before I set out on this grand unknown journey, I knew that I would someday write a book about it. And I thought that I would write it pretty quickly after having done it. I got home after the 3-month journey and I started writing. I took meticulous notes every single day in my journals so that I would have something to actually have content and details and all those fun moments. And I got home and I started writing, and writing is hard, by the way. And it was just, you know, painstaking almost. And I got about 60 pages in, and then I was distracted by videos and the TV world, and I started doing my public access TV show. And I just never went back to the book. I was on the video train, I was on the TV train, I was working for Travel Channel. And then the pandemic came along. And I didn't have a whole lot of new content for my channel. And I was like, what can I do this week? I need a new video for my people because I owe them something every week. And I know that a lot of you found my videos during the pandemic and I wanted to keep it going. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I still have all of the tapes, DV tapes before digital cameras from my Sony camcorder. I was like, I can digitize these tapes and make a documentary. Finally, put all these tapes to use. And so I did that. I went through and I saw things that I don't think I had ever reviewed before on video. And there's so many moments that brought back the feeling of that ride. And it was emotional. It was like therapy almost to go back and look at Ryan 15, 16 years earlier. So I made that video, put it on YouTube, and then I was like, well, now that I've done this video, I might as well write the book, right? So then I pulled out my journals and I got to work. And so that is the short story of why it took so long to write this book. And I think the book is much better because I waited so long to write it. I think there's a lot more wisdom, there's a lot more perspective, that I wouldn't have had if I had just jumped straight into the book after I got home in 2006. And I am really proud of how it all came together. I really am genuinely surprised at how good the book is. And I'm not saying that like in an arrogant way, but I'm like, wow, Ryan, like this is pretty good. And a lot of my friends, you know, high school friends that like, they bought the book and they read it, and some of the funny comments from them are like, man, I have not read a full book in 20 years until your book. Do we have any of those in the audience? Don't out yourself. Oh, we have one. And so it's been fun to share that story with people who don't typically read, or people who only know me through the medium of video. Video is great. Video is interactive. That's how I know all of you. But there's something special and I think a little bit more intimate with words in the English language and book and paper. And it's been really fun to see people's reactions to the story of The Long Way Home. So that is just a quick little interlude about why it took so long to write the book. Hopefully the next one won't take that long. Otherwise, you'll be waiting a long time. Yep. I thought I would share another story about how I got into being an athlete at an early age. And some of you might know this, some of you might have seen the video I made about this, but when I was a young boy, age 5, I went to my well baby checkup with my mom. I don't really remember much of this because I was tiny and with my mom. And the nurses came in to check my blood pressure, and I knew that they were concerned because they kept bringing in more nurses to like double check, and they kept putting on the blood pressure cuff, and then they would run out, and I could just see their faces like, something's not right here. And I was like, what's going on, Mom? And it turns out that they were freaking out because my blood pressure was 160 over 140, which is very, very high for a 5-year-old. And they didn't believe it because it's just so unheard of. And so from that moment on, I started going to the hospital. I was in, getting checks, and they were trying to figure out what was causing this high blood pressure. Long story, very short. Finally, a doctor just looked at me just really seriously. And he's like, young man, you have a problem with your heart, but the best way to live a healthy life is to be athletic and to just strengthen your heart, because that's going to be the healthiest thing that you can do. And I was still pretty young. I was maybe 6 at this point after having gone through all these tests. And he said, yeah, you need to run. And so that was my Forrest Gump moment where I was like, I was running. From that point on, I ran all the time. I took this really seriously. And it's interesting thinking about this, 6-year-old Ryan, like actually like heeding a doctor's advice, right? It's like, whatever, I'm fine. I'm just gonna eat my candy and play at school, and I'm just gonna do my thing like all the other kids. But for some reason, I took it really seriously. And I used to run, like before school, go on little 3-mile runs. And that led to a life of just loving the great outdoors. Because when you run, just like when you bike, it's fun. You get to be outside, you're connecting with nature. And as a young guy, I realized the importance not only of strengthening my heart, but just being outside. And luckily I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, which is a beautiful place to be outside. And there's lots of people, adults, mentors, runners, elite athletes that get outside all the time. So I had some wonderful mentors in the world of running. And that's why I got into this. And that led to biking at a pretty early age. I'll never forget when I got my first bicycle. I'm sure you can all remember when you got your first bikes and how fun it was. Does anybody remember when they got their first 600X and how exciting that was? There's a few of you here. Yeah. And at a young age, even like middle school and high school, I would go on these long rides. And I would leave in the morning and tell my mom I was just going to go on a mountain bike ride. And she was always a little weary because, just being out on my own all day and mountain biking can be dangerous. She wasn't, super psyched on the idea, but she knew that it was important to me because I loved it. It made me a better human. It made me feel alive. It made me more chill in some ways. Imagine me if I didn't have an athletic outlet. me. It was really important. And I would just ride all day on these trails. And I was young, so I was discovering Boulder that way. And being outside and interacting with nature and catching snakes and doing all that fun stuff. I remember once catching a snake, a bull snake, and I was way into reptiles when I was a little kid. And I remember putting it in my water bottle, and I poked a bunch of holes in the water bottle for air so it could like breathe. I remember taking it home on my bike and like saying, "Mom, I got a snake. We need to get an aquarium." And she's like, "No, I'd rather not have a snake in my house." But she gave in, and I had snakes, and it led to this whole like young infatuation with reptiles, and it was just fun. It's how I learned about the world, was through my bicycle. And I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are like, "Yeah, I get it." It doesn't matter what age you are. Once you get on a bike or you're running or hiking or whatever, like it's just good for your soul to be outside. And now I tell people, because I've been doing this for a long time, if you're having a bad day and you go outside just for a little bit, whether you're jogging or walking or biking, like it just kind of erases all of the stress to a degree, not 100% all the time, but it just makes you feel good to move your body. And so when I go on my adventures now, it's the best feeling in the world. People always ask, don't you ever get bored of riding your bike? You've been doing it forever. You just sit on your seat all day and you pedal. Like, no, I never, ever have gotten bored on my bicycle or even on a run. Most people they're like, okay, I can understand bikes because they're fun and you go fast and you're mountain biking, but they're like, running, that's a different story because running just sucks. Because a lot of people just don't get it. But I feel the same way about running. How y'all doing? It's so good to see. I mean, this is just like warming my heart. I wish my mom could be here to witness this. My mom's a very, important person in my life. You've heard me talk about her for years on my channel. She's really the hero of our family. She raised 4 kids on her own, and I like sharing these moments with my mom. And she's at just about everything I do. She's been through all the big life events with me. I know maybe she's out there watching on the live stream. Mom, I love you. I love you, Mama. And Amelia might be out there too. Amelia, hi. I'm sorry Amelia's not here today. I know that you wanted to meet her. She's a lot. Dana and Xantha. Dana, maybe she's watching. Amelia, I know at least a lot of people were like, "Oh, is Amelia coming?" So many people were asking this. I was like, do you want to see Amelia or do you want to see me? I get it. She's a lot prettier than me. I get it. Totally get it. But we'll see if we can get her out on another one of these another time. So I don't know exactly where we want to go from here. I can keep on talking if you want, or we can just start asking questions. And feel free to ask questions about anything, about the book or about my adventures, about Rwanda. Have you been watching those videos? Yeah, Rwanda was absolutely incredible. I had no idea what I was getting into when I went over there. I've never been to Africa before. And just like a lot of places on the planet, we learn about it through the media growing up. When you think about Mexico, what does the media say about Mexico? Mexico is dangerous. Mexico's full of narcos. Don't go to Mexico because you might get killed. And it was the same for Rwanda. So many people I told that I was going to Rwanda were like, Ryan, that sounds dangerous. Don't you know what happened there? And they don't really know what they're talking about because it was 30 years ago. And they just remember the negative connotations of what happened in Rwanda during the genocide in 1994. So I understand it to a degree. But Rwanda, these days, is an absolutely incredible country. And I think they were so traumatized by the genocide in 1994. To refresh some of your memories, 1 million people were killed in 100 days. And not killed in there's no good way to die, but we're talking about machetes and rocks and just icky ways to be killed. And so I think the country was so traumatized by what happened that they came together as one. And they were like, we're never letting this happen again. And we're going to be a model society, not only for ourselves, but for the world. And so they're very environmentally minded, conservation minded with all the animals. There's barely any crime in Rwanda. I never felt unsafe. And they're just jolly, as you've seen in the videos. I mean, kids are constantly chasing me, and they're not chasing me in like a scary way. They're like, hi, what are you really, can I just run with you for like a mile and talk to you? And it was so cute to like interact with all these, not only the kids, but like the adults and everybody. So I was incredibly impressed by what they've done and how quickly they've done it. 30 years ago, the country was, you know, in turmoil. And now today, they are a model civilization for a lot of Africa. And it's impressive to see what humans can do when they come together with a common goal and really work hard towards it. And that goes with, you know, I give a lot of credit to the leadership of the country. You know, like there's a day every month one day every month where the communities come together and do like service work. You know, the whole country goes out and helps. You know, I was with my guide a lot of days, and I never saw trash ever. And you'll learn about this in tomorrow's episode. I never saw trash, which is impressive. You know, that even in the United States, when we're pretty trash conscious, you'll still see roadsides full of trash, right? And especially in Latin America and Mexico. You've seen it in all of my videos. But it does not happen there. There, he's just like, we love our country, we're taking care of our country, and we just don't even throw trash on the ground. And even to the point where they wouldn't throw a banana peel on the ground unless it was in an area where bananas are grown, because it's not native to that area, it's not going to biodegrade like it should. I mean, really impressive mindset regarding the environment. And so Rwanda was a dream trip in many ways. I got to see the mountain gorillas, which just blew my mind. You have a lot of you have probably seen Gorillas in the Mist or read the book Gorillas in the Mist. I remember watching that as a kid, and it was really impactful. And I got to go and see these wonderful creatures. And we're hiking through the jungles, and we have a guide who's in touch with all of the trackers that are tracking the family, so they can tell him like where to guide us. And we're going through the jungle. It feels like I'm just in the movie. It looks the same. There's mist everywhere. And we're, you know, ducking under trees and vines. And then all of a sudden he's like, they're over there. And you look, and you see a family of gorillas just chilling, eating bamboo and having the time of their lives. And we roll up, and it's just like, wow, I feel like I'm looking at very, very primitive man. You look them in the eyes, they have the same kind of eyes. And you feel this connection with them that you don't feel with maybe other animals, like a snake or a lizard, you know? And the little ones are so cute, and they're wrestling and beating their chest. And then there's the silverback, of course, just chilling, laying in the grass, just being a proud papa. And we got to spend a whole hour with them, just hanging out. And they're so used to humans coming every single day that they don't really care. They don't get spooked. Like if a bunch of humans came up on a herd of deer, they're gonna just take off, right? But the mountain gorillas, I will never forget that moment. It was really special. Yes. So I can't say enough nice about Rwanda. It's on my mind right now, and I want to go back. A lot of you have probably been to Africa, I'm guessing, at least a handful. Only a few? Okay, a couple of people. Yeah, it's just a different place. You know, I've traveled a lot in my life, but going to Africa was something else. It really was. Yeah. All right, question.
I thought your guide was spectacular. How did you come to find him?
So the question was for the online audience. The guide was spectacular. How did I find him? So I was invited by the tourism board. I got an email. Actually, when I was in Oaxaca with John and Mira, I was in my tent one night. I actually had reception. And I got an email saying, Ryan, we love your YouTube channel, and we're trying to build up Rwanda as a cycling destination. Would you be interested in coming out here and making some of your videos? And I was like, whoa, no way. This is like you know, there's sometimes in life when you get a really exciting email. That was one of those times. I'm like, no, wait, what? Free trip to Africa? And so I went over there with the tourism board. And even before I did the trip, I told them, okay, because they're like, well, we're going to do this 10-day trip. There's going to be other journalists on the trip, and it's going to be cycling focused, and you're going to do some riding, and then we're going to go on safaris. You're going to see the mountain gorillas. And so I told them I would love to do this, but I also want to stay later and do this trail that I'd heard of called the Congo Nile Trail. And they're like, yeah, you can totally do that if you want to. And not only that, but we actually have a guy that works for us that developed the Congo Nile Trail. And he'll be your personal guide. And so that's how it happened. It was just, you know, like life, you know, sometimes just works out, you know, and that's how I met him. Yeah, and his name is Callie. His name is Caliste. It's a French name, Callixte. Really cool name. And it was a privilege to be able to not only have him as my guide, showing me the way, you know, where to go, which isn't that hard because you've seen in the videos, there's signs everywhere, but it was really amazing to have a local guide who could speak the language. And I learned a lot more about Rwanda because of him. And when I was there, you know, you just talk all the time, because when you're on a bikepacking trip, like you've seen with John and Mira, I'm just chatting like all day long. So I learned a lot about him and his life and his upbringing. And he was a young boy during the genocide, and his parents and brother were killed right in front of him. And they broke his back, but luckily he survived. And so it was just one of those moments where I was like, I can't even imagine the sadness and the trauma that is connected to a moment like that. And he was such a kind-hearted, jolly guy, like you've seen in the videos. And you know, it's really interesting because I don't know how, you know, you hear me talk about my mom. I can't imagine anything like that happening to my parents. And it didn't only happen to him; it happened to many, many, many other young people in that country. So that's how I met the guy. Yeah, Caliste, and you'll see more of him tomorrow. The next video. Yep, Davis, right?
Are they planning to set up the Congo now as a standard tour of some kind? Are they planning to market that? Or?
Yep, so the question was, are they planning on marketing the Congo Nile Trail as like an activity where you can have guides and stuff? And I think they are. There's a company called Rwanda Adventures, and they do guided tours, and they provide bikes, so you don't have to fly your bike all the way there. And there's a homestay situation where you can stay in somebody's home, and you can help cook the meals with the mom of the house. And so they really want it to be not only a bike ride, but a very intimate look in Rwandan culture. And it's beautiful, as you've seen in the videos, stunning. I was there during the rainy season, so it's a lot more green maybe than the dry season, but I absolutely was blown away. And it's good riding. I mean, there's some mountain biking, and there's some routes that are like easier options and harder options, so there's something for everybody. They want families to go there. Yeah, they want to get people to Rwanda. So that trail was developed not only for us as tourists, but to bring money to these tiny communities, which is really cool. It's a great form of ecotourism. Yeah. Here we go.
So we're watching the Baja trip right now. We're going to the slog through the sand.
Yeah.
So how do you go through a day like that? Here with ultra running, you're trying to unplug and just kind of be present. How do you get with just you not going? How do you get through a day like that? Are you thinking? Are you trying to unplug? Like what's the process to do?
So the question was, they're watching the Baja series right now, and there are moments where I'm just slogging through sand, and it's just hard. And how do I get through those moments? I've had a lot of those moments in my life. You know, you probably all remember the time that I was slogging through snow in New Mexico, which was probably even worse than sand. And once I got through the snow, I'm like, yay, no more snow. And then there was like the worst mud ever because all the snow had melted. So how do I get through those moments? You know, I definitely have a positive mindset towards a lot of different things in life. And I view it as, you know, I don't have the option to get cranky. You know, that's not going to help me. Like, I need to like stay in the game, keep my mind focused, and keep moving forward, even if it's painful, even if it's slow, and even if it just sucks. I need to keep on moving forward, and then I take a couple steps back from that even, and I'm like, Ryan, this is your life right now. You might be out in the Baja, sweating and pushing your bike through sand, but you get to do this. You chose to be here. And it's a privilege for me to even be in that moment, hurting, even if it's like, and I don't know how the day is even going to end up. Like in the YouTube videos you see, because it's, you know, it's a story, it's a video, but in the moment when I'm there, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But the mindset that I've had is just like, keep moving forward, even if it's slow, and try to look at the positives of the situation. And sometimes it takes just stopping and chilling and sitting in the ground and having a little reset, you know, like, because, you know, you see a lot of the moments where I'm pretty positive and I'm having a good time, but there are some times where I just need to have a little tantrum, freak out and scream out into the world. And once you get it out, and then you just feel better. Like, I'm in Baja, it is beautiful. It's not that big of a deal. It's sand. Sand isn't that scary. It's not quicksand. I'm not gonna die. And that's how I get through essentially any hard moment, whether it's an ultra marathon or snow or horrible rain and wind. It's just like, this is pretty good. Like, even as bad as it is in the moment, this is still a pretty cool situation to be in. And I know it's hard for viewers sometimes to like connect with that. They're like, oh, I would never want to do that. But once you do it, and a lot of you have, you realize the value of doing hard things. Because once you do more and more of these moments, or get through these tough times, you gain confidence in yourself as a human. And it helps you in your day-to-day life when life throws things at you that you're not expecting. Because, you know, the Baja, I chose to be there. I know it's going to be hard. And it's like practice for life, everyday life. And there are moments in life where, you know, maybe there's relationship ends or there's disease in your family or somebody dies and it's sad. And all those hard moments have helped me deal with life's hard moments. And so, you know, after many, many years of doing this, at first, yeah, I might have had a tantrum, this is stupid, this sucks, I don't want to be here. But after so many times of doing this, I find the value of just about every hard moment. And it makes me a more, I've talked about this in my videos, when I'm in those moments, it cracks open my heart. I'm a more loving, kind, compassionate, caring person because of those hard times. When it's hard, I think about the people that I love. I think about my mom. I think about Amelia. I think about Dana and Xantha. And I call this a gratitude march. And every step I take, I think about people I love. And not just people, but things I love about life. I can't wait when I get home. I'm gonna cook the best batch of chocolate chip cookies ever. And it gives you something to look forward to, right? And so the gratitude march has definitely gotten me through some sticky situations. Now, that's a long answer for your question, but yeah, there you go. Cheers. Right here.
If you were to do the Colorado Trail again, is there anything you would do differently?
Okay.
And is there anything that you would bring that you didn't bring last time?
I feel like you're asking this for specific reasons. Are you doing the Colorado Trail?
Yes, I am. And then secondly, as a thank you for all that you do, I brought you a couple little songs.
Oh, you did? Oh, right on. Are you going to give it to me right now?
Yes, I am.
Oh, no way. Hey. Yeah. Thank you. You are awesome. I don't expect gifts, but it's always cool. Let's see what we got here. Oh, this is cool. Look at this. Is this like a...
It's for your kitchen.
Oh, it's for my kitchen. Yes. Look at this. Ooh, everybody, check it out. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Oh, what do we have here? Ba-ba! We got a bag of beans. Thank you. You know I love the bag beans because they're easier to deal with than the canned beans. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. So his question was for the people in internet land, if I did the Colorado Trail again, what would I do differently? Colorado Trail was the hardest adventure I've ever done, just from start to finish. It pushed my limits all the way, almost every single day. It was just difficult, it was technical, I was at high altitude, the storms were hammering me every single day. I was cold, I was getting hailed on. There were some times that there were lightning storms just like boom, boom, like all over the place. I'm terrified, I'm on my own. And so the Colorado Trail really was one of those moments, to go back to your question, of like, how do you get through hard times? And that was like 11 straight days of hard times. And it was like almost so hard that I was constantly like nervous. It was just, oh God, here we go again. This is gonna hurt today. Because some bike tours are hard, and you know you're going up and over the Rocky Mountains or something. But then you know you're gonna hit Kansas, and then it's gonna be easy, right? That does not happen on the Colorado Trail. There's really no easy days. What would I do differently? I would try to have a lighter bike. My bike was so heavy, it was so hard to push up and down those mountains that I would try to have a lighter setup. So that was probably the biggest thing. But other than that, you know, that's about it. You know, when I finished the Colorado Trail, it whooped me so hard. I was like, I am never touching this trail again. Like, it was traumatizing. I want to go back to this. But now, 3 years later, I'm like, I want to try it again and see if I can go faster. So humans are funny. We forget pain, right? You know, after we have some time to think about it. And you know, the Colorado Trail, being as hard as it was also, on the flip side, one of the most impactful experiences of my life overall. And I think back on the lessons I learned on the Colorado Trail, and I use them in my daily life. And I'm really grateful for those hard times. And I think that's why we all choose to go on bike tours or choose to be ultra runners, because we understand the value in doing hard things, and not just doing it in the moment, but training for these things. I always say the adventure starts not when you're like on day one of the adventure, but when you start it and you decide you're doing an adventure and you start training and you're looking at maps every single night. You can all, you know, relate to these things and getting the right gear and like laying everything out. That's when the adventure starts. And so it's a long, long process. And then when you get out there, you actually get to do it and you're like, oh wow, kind of like relax a little bit. You're like, oh, this isn't so bad. You know, I get a lot of questions from people saying, I would love to do what you do. I want to do a long tour, but I'm just so intimidated because of X, Y, and Z. And I always tell them, like, I completely understand that it's overwhelming to think of riding the entire Colorado Trail or across the entire United States. But once you get out there and your tires hit the ground, then it makes sense. You're like, oh, this isn't so bad. All I have to do every day is wake up, and get on my bike, and pedal. That's all I have to do. That's an awesome life for however long you're doing it. That's a pretty good deal. And so I talk about that a lot. Yeah. Oh, that's not a question. Your hair looks straight. Thank you for showing us your head of hair. Cheers.
How does, after all the adventures that you had, how does cycling in these various places in the desert, in the you know, beauties of Rwanda, how does that translate to everyday cycling in Boulder?
So the question was, after all my adventures, how does that translate into my everyday cycling in Boulder? Is that correct? Pretty much. You know, I ride my bike everywhere I go. It's how I get around. You might all know this, but I've never had a car in my life. What? Weirdo? And so my car is my vehicle. It's how I get around. It's how I go grocery shopping. It's how I visit friends. It's how I visit my mom. And I like it. It connects me to my community. When you're on a bike, as we all know, you can wave to your neighbors. You can stop and talk to people easily. When you're in a car, you're insulated. You're listening to a podcast or music. And I'm not ripping on cars. I understand that cars are necessary. Most of you probably drove here today, right? No, you all rode your bikes? Way to go. And so, for me, riding around Boulder is like the butter. It's the easy part. Like, the adventures are hard, but riding around Boulder is just so pleasurable, and it's a beautiful city. And I really, ever since I was young, I remember when I was about 16, and a lot of my friends were getting cars and getting their driver's licenses. And I knew, because of our economic situation, that I was not going to get the car from my mom. That was never going to happen. And I was like, well, I'm just going to keep on riding my bike. And I remember riding down Folsom Street in Boulder to high school, and all my friends would be driving by on their cars and waving at me and making fun of me. And I was just like, it's sometimes freezing cold mornings in the winter. And I was like, you know what? You all suck. I am on a bicycle. I am having a lot more fun. I'm starting my day right. I'm getting exercise. And when I get to school, I feel a little bit more refreshed, right? And I've gotten a little bit of exercise. And it just feels good to ride your bike. And so that's kind of like my everyday life in Boulder. Is I'm on and off my bike all the time for every errand. And then, you know, of course, I go on mountain bike rides. Mountain biking is how I got into the sport of cycling. I love mountain biking. Boulder has some great trails. So I have a full suspension bike that I ride for fun, for like day trips and stuff. Yeah, good question. All right, here we go.
So maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, it seemed like you were going through sort of identity crisis,
Yeah.
and you talked about maybe not even continuing to do some of these videos and rides, and it seems like you pushed through that. I
Yeah.
we just talk about that.
So the question was that, you know, a year and a half ago, I was going through somewhat of an identity crisis and burnouts, and how did I get through that to where I am today? And it was hard and it was scary because all my life I wanted to essentially do what I'm doing now. I didn't know about online video back in the day, but I wanted to tell stories in some way, shape, or form. And I had spent so much time editing videos, shooting videos, building up my YouTube channel for like 6.5 years. And at the beginning of 2022, I just felt toasted. You know, it's hard to go from adventure to adventure, which are very physically taxing, but also be filming them. And that is almost even more work than the actual pedaling. And then I was also feeling like, wow, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over in every single video, and the audience must be sick of me, and it's like just monotonous. And I was really like questioning my role in the world and if I wanted to continue doing this. And so I took a bit of a break, which was really important, you know, and I think, like I said, sometimes when I'm on the trail going through sand and Baja, I have to sit down and just chill out, take a deep breath. And so I did that in a longer form last year, and it was really important just to, you know, catch my breath. And I realized that this is my dream. I've been working extremely hard for this. I finally have a channel big enough to the point where I am making a living doing this. And then the audience played a huge role in this because I made some videos talking about it. And everybody was so positive and so nice. Ryan, we're with you. We support you. We love your videos, even if you say the same thing over and over. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I'm so grateful. You know, the same things. They're like, we love what you do. We love the people that you meet. We love the interviews that you do. You show us the world in a way that we don't see in mainstream media. I got a lot of messages from people around the world who sent really kind-hearted messages saying, Ryan, we watch the news about your country and it's bonkers and it scares us. But then we watch your videos and we see you riding in small town America and you interview these wonderful people. And you're giving us a much different view about what Americans are like than what we're seeing on the news. And so keep it up. And so then I was like, you know what, I feel like I'm kind of an ambassador in that sense. That I get to share stories with the world that they don't typically see. And that just doesn't just go for the United States, but even Mexico. I've got a lot of comments from people saying, wow, you know, Mexico seems like a pretty safe place. And people are so kind and they invite you into their homes and they feed you meals. That is amazing. Like, we don't see that on the nightly news. We just hear about the bad stuff. So I feel like it's my job as the ambassador of cycling in a way to bring these happy, positive, genuine stories to the world that you're not typically seeing in mainstream media. And so that got me all fired up to continue doing what I'm doing. And I love it. I'm in a very good place right now. And like as I said, it's like to be able to see your faces right now and talk to you and take photos with you. It means the world to me that I actually even have an audience, you know? And I'm so grateful that I get to go on bike rides and call it my job and then see you and interact with you. I get emails from people every single day asking questions about gear or saying, Ryan, I'm really overwhelmed with this idea and I see you doing it in your videos. I want to do it. Can you help coach me through this tough time? And I'm like, I will take the time to interact and respond to every single person. I probably spend 10 hours a week responding to emails and direct messages and Instagrams and whatever because it's important for me that the audience knows that I'm there for them. I'm just not just making videos because I want to make money. It's never been about money. I want to create content that's bringing value to the world. But not just the content, but just also the access to be able to talk with me as just a real human. And so I love it, and I think I'm through it. But I don't know if it could pop up again in another year. I think being a creator is a different type of existence. And there are times where it's very overwhelming. But I have to go back to the moments, you know, pushing through sand, like, this is my life, this is pretty good, and I get to meet people like you. And so right now I'm feeling like incredibly inspired, because you're all here. You came here from Guam. You came all the way from Guam.
just kind of doing it, were there any techniques or tricks that you've used to kind of refine your storytelling capabilities?
So are there any tricks or methods that I use to refine my storytelling is the question. You know, I always tell people that I've never made the perfect video. And that keeps me hungry, that keeps me motivated to keep on improving. And if you look at my older videos, they're much different than today's videos. And so I do think that with every time I'm out there on an adventure, I'm looking at different ways to tell stories, so it's not always the same. And, you know, with the advent of the drone, that's been really cool. That's added a lot to my videos. That gives this perspective to the audience that is, you know, it's just beautiful. I mean, it's like these cinematic looking shots through trees or mountains or canyons. And in the moment, I get to see things that I'm not even seeing. Maybe I'm in the trees in Montana. I get the drone in the air and I'm like, whoa, this is really cool, you know? And then I bike and pedal and I fly my drone, and everybody always has this question of how I do that. And I've crashed a lot of drones. But it's worth it. It's all part of the cost of being a creator. But you know what? I really value talking to people just in my life, and I want to share their stories with the world because I find it interesting. And so I figure if I find it interesting, the world probably thinks it's kind of interesting. And so I really love interviewing people so you can meet them essentially. And now you've made friends with all of my friends, with Dana and Amelia and my mom and a lot of other strangers, my guide in Rwanda. So telling other people's stories is really important because I don't want the video just to be me riding my bike and talking the whole time. I want to talk with the world because that's what interests me. I love it. That's why I travel. Before I became, you know, a bike travel guy, I was like a travel blogger. And so I traveled the world, and I feel energized when I have a conversation with a local, even if I don't quite know the language and we're just kind of smiling and making hand gestures. Like those moments to me are the best part of traveling. And maybe you get invited into somebody's home and you get to see what life is like wherever you are. And so, yeah, I haven't made the best video yet. So keep on watching. Maybe someday I'll make it, but probably not. And I go to editing too. Editing is also an incredibly important part of telling the story, not just in the moment of setting up the tripod and getting the drone out, but editing. You know, that's really where the story comes alive. And it takes me a long time just to make one video. So it looks pretty slick and it looks professional. That's important to me, that it looks good. And so, yeah, every day I get a little bit better. Every video is a little bit better than the past video. Yeah, right on. All the way to the back.
So speaking of editing, how many hours would you say you spend editing your videos together to get one video?
How many hours do I spend editing to get one video? It depends, but I would say 3 to 4 days to really start, like pull all the footage down. So I have a GoPro, I have a Sony camera, and I have a drone. So there's a lot of footage between those 3 cameras. And then I pull all that down into my timeline. I go through and I pick, okay, this shot might be good, this shot might be good. And I make a long timeline of all the selects that I make. And then from there, that's where the editing starts. And I keep smushing it together, taking out shots that I don't need, maybe adding in other shots. And it takes a long time. And then you think about the music. I want to find good music for my videos that's not overpowering, that's not heavy-handed, but kind of just makes you feel good when you're listening to it, right? Like music is amazing. I love it. And so then you think about titles and a little bit of graphics, and then the interviews and how you're going to intertwine the interview into this spot and then lead to the next segment. And so I would say, yeah, 3 to 4 days to make a typical video. If I'm making like a film, like a more produced thing, then that can take months. Yeah. Here we go. Gary.
When you got home from Honduras, how long were you grounded?
This is a good question. When I got home from Honduras, how long was I grounded? Because my mom was not happy that I did this. She was very kind, but I think I say it in the book. But the moment I got home, after having ridden my bike for 4,000 miles in 3 months, the first person I hugged was my mom, and she grabbed me tightly, and we were hugging, we're both crying. It's a very powerful moment for us. She's like, don't you ever do this again. And in the moment, I'm like, don't worry about it, I won't. And in a way, I didn't think that I would do it again. This was my one big adventure. And then I'm going to go out and just get a real job or whatever, move on in the world. But that adventure lit a fire in me. And this is, you know, what I talk about it in the book. I wanted to find a way to become a storyteller. I wanted to find a way to get paid to travel the world and share inspirational stories with the world. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. This job did not exist. There was no online video. There was no YouTube. The only way to do this at the time was to make like documentary films that you might get into a film festival that would be seen by an audience of maybe 1,000 people if it's a big theater. And so it was an overwhelming thought, but I was like, I'm motivated, I'm gonna figure this out. And then along comes online video, YouTube, this is about 2006. And I also started at the same time doing a public access TV show in my town of Boulder. And we all know nobody really watches public access because it's usually pretty junky, low quality stuff. But I was like, I gotta start somewhere. And you've all heard the term fake it till you make it, right? And so that was like, I'm just gonna be a TV host. I'm gonna be what I want to be and just go out and run around with my Sony Handycam and film adventures in Boulder that, you know, people might want to watch and then be like, oh, I want to go do that fun local adventure. And the show was called Out There. Whoa. Yeah. And so that's where it all started. That's where the Out There, you know, mission started. And I still talk about it today, just get out there. And at the end of every one of these 30-minute episodes, I would look into the camera and say, no, get off the couch and get out there. And that didn't mean that you had to be an elite athlete or have the nicest gear. It could just be go outside and climb a tree or whatever. Getting outside is so therapeutic. And that's what I wanted to do with the show. That was my goal, was to inspire people to challenge themselves in some way, shape, or form. And so that was an interesting answer for your question about I got grounded, but it led to something good. Thank you. And I want to tell you, this is my friend Gary. Did you watch in the Oaxaca episodes where there was a stick carved with I love Mira on the stick? You know who that came from? Gary. I'm meeting him for the very first time today. We've had some interactions online, but he sent me this care package. And at first I was really confused because there was also a card in this package as if it was written from Mira. It was like scratchy handwriting, like, Ryan, you're my best friend. Here's, you know, a stick to throw to me next time you see me, or whatever, right? And I was like, who did? Did John do this? John's not this touchy-feely. He wouldn't send me a care package. And that's how it all came to be. I took the stick to Mexico, and on the last night with John, I pulled it out. It was like a trophy. And I was like, Mira, I have the coolest stick for you ever. And, you know, she loved it, and we played with it, and she very quickly destroyed it. Yeah. I wanted to, like, leave it with Mira and John so they could have it on their adventures, but it seriously lasted 15 minutes.
Yeah, quickly. Love the book.
Thank you.
Can't wait for the next one.
Okay, Long Way Home 2.
There you go. Shorter way home. But quick question: any scars from the botflies?
Okay. Then he says, any scars from the botflies? So I'm guessing a lot of you have read the book or at least know the story, but if you don't know the story, I had botflies in my arm. They are parasites. They're like little maggots. And I got a couple of these, luckily, on my ride home. I was in the jungles of Belize, and I was being eaten by mosquitoes. And I had 2 bites right here on my bicep that lasted much longer than the other mosquito bites. The other ones healed, and these 2 got worse and they got bigger. And if you all know the story, I don't need to keep telling it, but do you guys want to hear the story again? This is a crowd pleaser. So, these 2 wounds on my arm are getting a little bit more infested. But I don't really care. I'm riding my bike home from Honduras. I have 101 other things to think about, not whatever's going on in my arm. And then one day, I was sitting on a dock in Zihuatanejo, Mexico. So this was a long time after Belize, like 3 weeks after getting the mosquito bites. And I was enjoying a sunset. It was a beautiful, peaceful moment. My feet are in the water, just kind of like this. I'm sitting on the edge of a dock. And I look down at my arm at these 2 wounds. And all of a sudden I see this little like white wormy thing coming in and out of the hole. Do you remember the movie Aliens? Like, remember that thing? Yeah. Sorry, I was scared. And so I was like, what is that? That is weird. I didn't say it that way. I'm trying to be kid friendly. That's weird. I ran back to the hostel where I was staying and showed everybody there, backpackers from around the world. I'm like, hey guys, I have worms in my arm. Does anybody know what this is and if this is a bad thing? And they're like, weird, gross, you know, like stay away from us. They didn't know if it was, you know, contagious. And they're like, well, we need to get these out. And these are all young party animal backpackers. They're like, let's pour tequila on them. That'll get them out of your arm. So we tried pouring tequila on them. We tried getting some tweezers and like pulling them out. And then we like started thinking, oh no, that's not working. Let's light a match and get the tweezers really hot and then like kind of like squeeze them out. Like, and I'm sitting there like a guinea pig, and they're all just like poking at me, and I'm like, guys, and I'm getting a little like lightheaded. This is pretty gross. And that turned into the botfly saga. I went to a doctor the next day in Mexico, like a little like just walk into the door doctor, and I was like, hey, I have worms in my arm. How do I get rid of these? And the doctor was like, I've only seen this on the Discovery Channel. I can cut your arm open and get them out if you want. Or you can just leave them in there. From what I understand, they're not going to really hurt you. And I was like, well, I would rather you not cut my arm open. And I was like, okay, I'll just leave them there. And then before I left, he's like, what you could try doing is getting a piece of meat from the market. And then tonight when you go to bed, like tape the meat to your arm, and that will entice the botfly out of your arm, of course, because the meat is juicy and yummy. So here I go, vegetarian guy, go to the market, buy some meat, some raw meat, I tape it on my arm that night, and then I go to bed, and I'm like, this smells gross, like, I really hope this works. And I woke up the next day, I had a rancid piece of meat on my arm, and the botflies were like, ha, sucker, like, nah, we're staying with you. So I had the botflies in my arm all the way until, they came out at different times, but the last one came out when I was crossing the border. I was in El Paso, I just crossed the border. And I grew up with a lot of acne on my face as a kid. It's hard to believe I have such nice skin now. We all go through this. And so I was a pro at popping zits. I was really good at it. Anybody else? Anybody else here good at popping zits? Come on. Okay, all right. You know, you get into the mirror and then you squeeze it, boom, it shoots a little pus into the mirror, right? Did anybody else have trophies on your mirror? Come on, there we go. Come on, Greg. You have zits for sure. And so I was very good at squeezing things out of my head. And I was like, oh, I know how to get rid of this botfly now. And go back a little bit. It was really hard to like get a grip on them. Like once you got near them, they were like that whack-a-mole game. You get anywhere near them, they stuck in the middle. I mean, they're animals. They're part of the animal kingdom. Like they know how to survive. They're not just gonna let you grab them and pull them out. Like, it's too easy. So, man, this is getting long. You asked for it. So I'm in El Paso. And at this time, the wounds had gotten pretty big. They were like mini volcanoes on my arm. And the worms had matured quite a bit, and they were bigger, to the point where I actually could get a little bit of a grip on them when I squeezed, just like a zit. And I was squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, and my buddy Jeff was sitting across the bed from me on the phone with like his family. And he was like, what is Ryan doing? I don't know. And I'm just sitting there like, Rah! And all of a sudden, boom, boom, I shoot the zit out, the botfly, onto the headboard of the hotel bed. Boom, like it's rocket speed. And it was pretty big. Like, go online tonight and look up botfly, and you'll see how big these things are. They're pretty big magnets. And I shot it onto the headboard, and it was so much gelatinous material that it looked like I took a strawberry and hit it with a hammer. That's exactly what it looked like. And so Jeff is like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. He's on the phone with his parents. What are you doing, Ryan? That's the story of my botfly. So I think the question was, do I have any scars? I thought I was going to have scars because it was pretty crusty and bloody, but I don't. You would never know that I have botflies. Check it out. This is just my opportunity to flex in front of you. No botfly scars. Yeah, there we go. Life is good. All right. Do any of the kids have questions? Do we have any kids in here?
They're out playing.
Yeah, they're having a great night. It's Saturday night. All right, here we go.
So just a general question. I really enjoyed your video at the marathon.
Okay.
So you really seem to enjoy it. You're having a good time. You've been there many times. Can you tell us about it a little bit more?
You're talking about the Caballo Blanco race? Okay, so the question was, the Caballo Blanco race looked like I was having the time of my life, and I talk about it more. Yes, I love that race. You know, for my channel, I love Mexico in general. I love the people, I love the culture, I love the music, I love food, I love just their way of life. Like, I fit well in Mexico. They're just jolly and carefree, and I kind of feel like I am too. And so when I meet Mexicans, I'm just like, oh, you're my best friend after like 5 minutes of meeting somebody. And this race is called the Caballo Blanco Ultra Marathon. If you've read the book Born to Run, it's the race that's highlighted in that book. And this book was a worldwide, seller, and it kind of kicked off the barefoot running craze. If you remember that, of about 2005-ish or something. And I read this book, and I got inspired to go down there. Just like after you read my book, you're all going to ride your bikes from Honduras to Boulder, right? And get botflies. And so I read the book, and I was like, I'm going to go down there. And it's 2015, and it's just a magical place. Like, imagine the Grand Canyon, but all green. I mean, it is stunning to the eyes. It's beautiful. And unlike the Grand Canyon, there's this beautiful little idyllic town at the bottom of these canyons called Urique. And that's where the race starts and finishes. And this town has completely embraced this race. It is the biggest thing that happens all year. And it brings in people from all over the world. It brings in a lot of Mexican nationals from all over the country. And Caballo Blanco's dream, his name was Micah True, who actually lived in Boulder. His dream was to bring people from around the world to this spot so that they could experience the beauty and the magic of these Tarahumara people who live down there and are like world famous long distance runners and run in sandals. And these sandals are made out of car tires that are like cut up, the tread part, and then they weave them together with leather. And that's what they run in for long times. And so I read this book and I wanted to go down there, and I did, and I fell in love. And so I've been down there 5 times now. I brought my mom down there, my brother's been down there with me, and Amelia was the most recent one to experience it. And it's just a fascinating place. Even if you don't like running, it is beautiful. I actually want to develop some sort of bike packing route down there because it would be a great place to ride a bike. And as you've seen in the video, like, I'm just running and it's beautiful and I'm having the time of my life and I'm talking to people and it's just supportive. And that's the ultra community. It's just really supportive. I grew up running in races in high school, and it's just kind of like, it's not as friendly because everybody wants to beat you, but ultra runners are like, you're a weirdo, I'm a weirdo. Why are you running 100 miles? Nobody gets it but us. It's like this secret little cult, right? And everybody just is really encouraging. And that you can go to any ultra race in the world and it's like that. And it's especially like that down there. And it's really fun to run with these people who run in the sandals. You've probably seen in the video, a lot of the old ladies are running in full dress, full native dress. And it's incredible. And so there's about 1,000 people who do the race now. It's gotten very big. 800 of them are the locals, the Tarahumara people. And then there's about maybe 100-ish gringos from around the world, and then Mexican nationals that come around Mexico. So it's really fun. Thank you for asking that question. It's fun to like relive it all just when I tell you about it. It's cool. Who wants to go next year? Excuse me? Top 3 favorite videos? Top 3 favorite videos. This feels like VH1. Little countdown here. I love my video, even though I don't think it's my best. I love Mama Picchu. It's the story about when I went to Peru with my mom to do the Inca Trail. It's an old one from 2012. A lot of you may not have seen it, but it's called Mama Picchu, a play on words from Machu Picchu. And this was her first big adventure in life. You know, she she raised 4 kids on her own as a young woman, and her life was hard. You know, making ends meet was difficult. And so she didn't have time to do a lot of the extracurricular activities that people do in Boulder, like hiking and biking. She was mom all the way. And then I started traveling when I got out of high school, and I would tell her all these stories. And, you know, I just loved sharing the world with my mom. At the time, she was like, I can never imagine doing that. I'm so busy, like I don't have the money. And then finally, in 2011, she decided that she wanted to do this trail. She met some people who were leading a tour, and she's like, I want to do that. Like, I really want to train, and I want to get fit. My mom had never done anything like this before. She'd never done day after day or day after day of trekking with a backpack. It was completely new to her. She wasn't really all that fit at all. And she committed to training and getting stronger. She went to workout classes, and she'd go to Red Rocks in Colorado. You've heard of Red Rocks where the famous concerts happen, and she'd go up and down the stairs. She wasn't running, she was going up and down the stairs. And it was really inspiring to see my mom really go after something that she had never done before. And finally, at this point in her life, the kids were gone. She finally had some money because she wasn't paying for me anymore, living in her basement. The big loser. No, this guy wasn't a loser. It's a little weird that I was 30 living in her basement. But. So she decided she wanted to do this, and she got fit, and it was great, and I documented the journey. We would go work out together, and I would be running alongside with the camera. We get to Peru, and she's nervous, and she's scared. And another big motivating factor of her doing this, kind of like when I was motivated as a young kid, my doctor said, you need to get healthy. You know, your heart's not the best. My mom was diagnosed with heart disease, and her doctor told her the same thing, like, you need to be fit, you need to be walking, you need to be moving. And we go to Peru, and we do this amazing trek, and there's some hard moments, and she's pushing her limits like she's never pushed before. I'm there, and my brother Ethan is there, my younger brother, and we do this adventure, and it was 7 days, and we camped at 16,000 feet one night, which is a big deal for my mom, you know? It was cold, and it was snowing on us, and the day we got up and over and saw Machu Picchu and looked down through the clouds, looked kind of like these misty clouds here. And they parted, and you could see this ancient, beautiful ruin. And we were so proud. We were all crying. We're big criers. You've seen my channel. I cry about everything. And we have this emotional moment, and that was the story of Machu Picchu. And from that moment on, she's like, I'm going to continue doing this. And she's lived a much healthier life than she did before. She's super active. She's now way into pickleball. She plays like pickleball like 4 to 5 times a week. She gets after it. And she tells me about all the pickleball players she plays against, and she's whooping butt. And yeah, it's cool. It's good to see her motivated and focused. So that was one of them. Machu Picchu. Another one of my favorite videos, I would say the Great Divide long version is one of my favorite videos. And that was a total experiment. I had never made really long videos at that point. When YouTube first started, videos were like 3 minutes max. The idea was that humans didn't have attention spans. They wanted to watch these short videos in between breaks at work and just watch something funny or something. And so I was conditioned to making short content. And now YouTube, people watch it like they watch any TV show. They watch it on their smart TV, and so it can be longer form. And so my videos now are typically, 20 to 30 minutes, like a full episode of TV.
but I had never made anything longer than that. And so I got lots of emails from people over the years saying, I love watching your videos when I'm on my exercise bike and I just kind of zone out and I watch the beauty go by. And I'm like, huh, maybe I should make a really long video that people can just watch when they're on the exercise bike. And what I did was I took out most of the interviews, so it was just riding shots, so it's if you could put yourself on the seat of the bike in that moment. I took out all the music, so it was just natural sounds. If you watch the video, you're like, you just hear the crunching and gravel. And a lot of people watch the video and they don't even realize, like, oh wow, I watched the whole thing. I realized there was no music. And so I made it as simple as possible. And I didn't think it was gonna go viral like it did. It's a very simple video. And I uploaded it, and immediately it got sucked into the YouTube algorithm, and the numbers were off the charts for a video of mine. My videos, maybe get 30 to 50,000 views each, which is, for me, exciting. That's great, that's enough. But this video was like 50,000 on the first day, and 100,000, 150,000, it was just like getting bigger and bigger. And it's been fun to see the reaction from people who, like, they're like, I clicked on this video because the thumbnail was pretty, and I saw that it was 2 hours, and I'm like, there's no way I'm watching this whole thing, and all of a sudden, I watched the whole thing. And I think it's just mesmerizing. It puts you into that space where you're just like, la, 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 la. This is just pretty. It's just like a day out in nature. And so that was another one of my favorite videos. And then, I've made so many, it's hard to say what else is one of my favorite videos. I've done a lot of videos to highlight local nonprofits in Boulder and even around the world. I love using my audience for good, raising money or just exposing them to nonprofits that are doing good things in the world. And so there was a nonprofit in Boulder called Boulder Food Rescue. And what they do is they go to all of the grocery stores around town that are throwing away a lot of their food. Every grocery store in the United States does this. They throw away perfectly good food just because the expiration date says, get it out of here. And so Boulder Food Rescue works all on bicycles, and they have these long trailers, and they fill up the trailers full of fruits and vegetables and all sorts of goodies, and they take them around town to some of the lower income housing buildings, and they set up what's called a no-cost grocery. So people can go in and walk around and pick whatever they want. It doesn't cost anything, it's free. And so they're using that food that would otherwise be going to a landfill and causing all sorts of methane gases to come out and everything, and they're feeding people who need food, good, healthy food. And so that, I think, is another one of my favorite videos, even though it's not, barely anybody really watched it, because it's maybe not an adventure video, but I like highlighting nonprofits that are doing cool stuff in the world. Yeah. Have any of you seen the YouTube channel called Climate Town? It's awesome. They make incredible content. I highly recommend subscribing to Climate Town right now. They just made a video about this issue of food waste and expiration dates, and it will open your eyes on a national level of this issue of wasting tons and tons of food. It's not just grocery stores wasting this food. It's like all these farmers work so hard to create this food, and then they package it, and it goes to all these grocery stores across the country, and the numbers of the amount of food that gets wasted is astronomical. At a time when we could be feeding so many people who need good, healthy, quality food. So go subscribe to Climate Town. They make content that it will just blow your mind. It's really high production value. Yeah. Connor.
We had a YouTube question.
Okay.
Did you ever get your 600X from customs in Africa? If so, tell the story.
The question was, did I ever get my 600X out of customs in Rwanda? I almost don't want to tell this story because the video isn't out yet. But since you came from Guam, I'm going to tell you the story. So I was talking to Dave at Priority before I went to Rwanda. And I was like, hey, I'd love to get a, because I didn't have a 600X. I had just given mine away in Oaxaca, so I didn't have a bike. I'm like, I need a new 600X, but I also am going to Rwanda. Can you send one out for me? He's like, yeah, we can totally send one. And I thought it would be easier to send it ahead of time than travel with the bike in an airport. Because one of my least favorite things about bike packing is traveling through an airport with the bike. And he's like, no problem, we'll send it with DHL, it'll get to Rwanda, it'll be there waiting for you. We thought. And then I get to Rwanda, and they say it's there, but it's for some reason stuck in customs. And I'm on a trip with a tourism board, so I can't really deal with the issue. I'd have to start going on this trip that they have planned for me. And I'm just hoping that it's going to work out, and at some point it's going to pop out of customs, and they're going to be able to deliver it to me at some point. That never happens, and I keep asking the contacts at the tourism board. They're like, we're talking to the customs, we don't really know what's going on, and I can't really think much about it and put an effort into it because I'm not there. I'm traveling all around the country. I'm not the capital city. So I don't get my bike. Luckily, the tourism board had a loaner bike for me that worked just fine. And finally, at the very end of the trip, I have a full day in Kigali, the capital. And my guide, Caddy, was like, let's go to DHL and see what's going on. And I didn't think there was a chance I would ever see this bike because this stuff happens and it usually doesn't work out. So we go to DHL and we sit in line and we talk to 10 different people and they're like, we don't know why it's still in customs. We haven't even gotten it yet. The best way to deal with this is to go to the airport and go to customs and like ask some questions. And so like, okay, this is how I'm spending my last day in Rwanda. So like we go to the airport and luckily I have Callie with me and he's translating. We're talking to all the different people and they're sending us from office to office. And finally, you'll see more of the details in the video. I get let into the customs area, but it's just me. He doesn't get to go in with me. And so I've all of a sudden lost my translator. And so I am in a customs warehouse at the airport in the capital city of Rwanda, trying to navigate getting my bike in a language that I don't speak. And their English is pretty good, but not amazing. Some people speak good English. And it was just a fascinating experience. And so I'm walking through this giant warehouse of boxes from all over the world. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to see the bike. Walk, look to my right, boom, there's a priority box sitting there. And I'm like, oh my God, there it is. And I think I can just grab it and go. There's my bike, that's my bike. And then they're like, okay, now that it's here, you have to go to this room and we can talk to them. And there's like 10 other people waiting there. And I'm sitting and sitting and sitting. I don't know what they're saying. Callie is on the outside wondering what's going on. I've been in there for hours now. He's waiting for me. And finally got to talk to this guy. He's like, you need to pay a storage fee. We've had this for 2 weeks now. I'm like, okay. But it can only be paid through this random app that only Rwandans use on their phones. It's called Momo Pay. And I'm like, I don't have Momo Pay. So I go outside. And I'm like, Callie, this is the situation. I need to pay 70,000 Rwandan francs, which is $70. And he's like, okay, well, I will transfer some money from my bank to my Momo Pay, and I can pay it, and then you show them this receipt. So we do all this stuff outside of customs. I get the receipt that he has paid. I go back in. I get in line again. It takes forever. I don't know what they're saying. I'm frustrated. I haven't eaten. And I didn't expect to be really doing this on my final day in Rwanda. We had gone on a bike ride earlier that morning. I hadn't really eaten much. I hadn't drinking much. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to pass out in the customs department here at the airport. You need to get this signed. You need to go talk to this lady over here. I mean, I was getting pinballed all over the place. And I'm like, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to grab my bike and run. I'm just going to run. It's going to work. Like, I got to that point. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. Many, many steps later, the Rwandans are very helpful people in general, but you know, like government workers at an airport, like whatever, they don't really care that much. I finally get it all taken care of, and I walk out of that airport with the priority box in my hand with the 600X, and the whole time, I knew that I was going to give that bike away. Like that was the goal. I was going to go to Rwanda, ride this bike, and then give it away to somebody who I thought would be a deserving person who would never be able to have a bike like this. But I never said anything to anybody because I didn't want to get their hopes up because I didn't know if I was ever going to get this bike. So I never told Callie about my grand plan. But I was so excited. It felt like a birthday surprise. I'm like, I am only getting this bike so I can turn around and give it to Callie and then get on my flight home. But it's all happening in the same day. So we get the box out, we put it in the truck, we go to the hotel, we put it together, and remind you, I'm going back to the airport for my flight home in just a few hours, so I'm kind of feeling rushed now. We get the bike together, and he goes, and he rides it. I'm like, Callie, you can be the first one to ride the bike. I want you to experience my bike. He rides it, and he's like, man, this is so cool. And I was like, yeah, it's a really interesting bike, isn't it? And I was like, it's your bike. And he didn't quite understand. I was like, Callie, this is your bike. He's like, no. I was like, yeah, man, I'm giving you this bike. Priority is giving you this bike. And thanks, Connor. And so he was stunned. He can't imagine. He didn't have, like, the bike that he was riding in the video was not his bike. It was a loaner bike. So he told me many times, he's like, I don't even have a mountain bike. I don't make a whole lot of money. Like, the idea of having a good quality mountain bike is, you can't even fathom it. Most of the bikes that you see in the videos are like $80 Chinese bikes. They're not mountain bikes. And so I knew that this bike was going to make him so happy and change his life. And I gave him the bike, and he was just so touched. And I was like, see you later, I'm going home. So that's essentially how the story ended. And I want to talk about Priority's involvement in this. Before I even met Priority, I loved giving away bikes at the end of my adventures, if I was able to. It wasn't like a thing that I could do every time, because obviously bikes are expensive, but sometimes I gave away bikes. And once I met Priority, they're just so giving. They really care about, you know, just people getting on bikes and helping the world. I can't tell you how many bikes they've donated behind the scenes that you haven't even seen, that they just want to like hook people up. You know, Dana from my friend Dana from the videos, she has a fundraiser we do every year. Priority donates the bikes for that. We got like 10 bikes donated for the Boys and Girls Clubs in some local towns that she works with. And so Priority are incredibly generous. So the reason why I'm able to be generous is because they're generous, because Connor is generous and the whole team at Priority. It's really nice to work with people who support my dreams and vision, and that's why I love being a part of the team. You know, I'm not an employee, I don't work for Priority, but I just feel like I'm part of the family, right? And it feels really good, because I could never have done this with Trek. I used to work with Trek for a bit, and it's just a different culture. I'm not saying Trek is bad, but it's just like I can call up Dave or Connor at Priority and be like, hey, I want to donate this bike. Sweet, let's figure out a way to do it. You know, they're just solutions people. They're like, we're going to figure this out. We'll get a bike to Rwanda, and you can ride it, you can give it away. And I'm so glad that the story has a happy ending. And now Callie has been riding it like crazy. He sends me messages on WhatsApp, and he's like, I can't believe that I have my own bike. I can wake up and just ride this bike all over the place. And he's like, I'm training. I'm going to do a mountain bike race on this bike. And it's really fun to see. And so I hope to be able to do more and more of this going into the future. And I know I will. Oh, speaking of. Okay, here's a big moment. Speaking of giving away bikes.
We never got to sign.
You didn't get what?
Oh, you didn't get to? Oh. All right, get your name on here.
Get your name on here. We're going to give away a trip to Rwanda. But you're just going to the customs department. Don't worry, it's a beautiful warehouse. Whoa, Izzy! Whoa! Nice move. That camera shake was from lovely Izzy, the daughter of Connor. Are you going to help me?
Sure.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
All right, you describe what we're doing.
So
Iz will be learning for the first time too.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is everybody is signed up to win this bike, whether you do it or not. Somebody is coming home. You're not going to get the bike today; it'll be sent to you. But somebody is going to win a Priority 600S. And if you go to Africa with it, you'll be one of 2 people in the entire continent that have a Priority 600S. So, Connor, how are we going to do this?
All right. Yes. So if anybody's unhappy with the result, you have to blame the So here's what you're gonna do. Everyone, see all the names. What you're gonna do is you can close your eyes. Always getting ahead of everyone. You can close your eyes. You can do whatever you want. What you can do is you are gonna put your finger down randomly on any name on here, and that person is gonna win a 600X bicycle.
Whoa.
Right? Right there. Any name, anything you want. All right, you ready?
Maybe we can ever spin around or something.
Yeah.
Disney.
Stand up.
Yeah. We're just messing with you.
Are you gonna do 3 big? No, let's do 5 big spins.
Spin around, get dizzy.
Go.
And then
1,
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now put your hand on. Okay, so you have to read it.
Scott J.
Scott
J.
Scott J. Scott J. Yeah. Here we go. Let's see. That guy right there. Da-da-da. Yeah. Good job, Izzy. Let's give her a round of applause. Looks like Scott has something to say. So the winner of the bike already has 2 Priority 600Xs, and he's kind enough to donate, get it back into the pot. Here we go. Okay, now you have to spin around 25 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here we go.
Beaudry K.
Good job. Beaudry. And you were just about to leave. Good thing you stayed. Good thing you stayed. All right, awesome. That was great. One more question, and then we'll hang out. We have some sweatshirts and fun stuff to give away. Right? Oh yeah, I'll sign your books. A lot of you might have to get on the road soon, I'm guessing. Okay, sorry. Okay, we'll do this fast. What's your question?
And he said, look, if anything happens, a magical stranger will show up and help you. And they did.
No way.
I was 50 miles out. No one had been around. I wrecked, and somebody just showed up on the bike. But what I wanted to say is I feel like you are a magical stranger to all of us because of your content, your videos, your book, and just your inspiration. So thank you.
Oh. Thank you. I appreciate that. For the people at home, she was saying that she contacted you before a big adventure, overwhelmed and scared, and I was like, don't worry, somebody at some point, some magical stranger is going to come and save the day. And that is what happened in her situation. She crashed on her bike, and here came along Barack Obama. And saved the day. It wasn't Barack. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. It really, like I've said many, many times, it means a lot that you're here tonight. And not only here tonight, but you watch my videos every week. It warms my heart. And I will continue making these videos for you, I promise. I love you all! Yeah. We're going to do sweatshirts and t-shirts? How are we going to do that?
T-shirt cannon.
T-shirt cannon.
I wish.
You can ask a question. You want to ask a question for your book?
Okay. What was the name of my friend who I rode home with? Jeff. She raised her hand.
Where is Jeff?
Jeff is alive and well in Bellingham, Washington with his family. He's married and has 2 kids. I still see him quite a bit. He's an amazing human friend, as you learned about in the book. And I see him still. He comes back to Boulder quite a bit. Yeah, definitely. Oh, another question off the cuff. This is tough. Not the book. Let's see. Okay. The ink in my book. Algae. Who raised their hand? Algae-based ink. My book is the most environmentally friendly a book can be. This is really important to me. It's all recycled paper. No trees were cut down to make my book. It was printed locally in Boulder, Colorado, paying living wages to people. A lot of books are printed overseas and shipped. There's a huge carbon footprint behind books, and they're toxic and bad. And I really wanted to make a book that was as friendly to the environment as possible. And algae-based inks was how it all came together in the end with non-toxic inks. I've been talking for a while now. I'm getting a little stuttery. Okay, another question. Does anybody? This is so much pressure to come up with a random trivia question. Let's see. Oh, I don't know. Let's just throw them into the crowd. Dave, just somebody, Greg, just toss some shirts into the crowd. Yeah, get your cannon. Make some cannon noises. Yeah, exactly. Boom. Oh, and people back home, if you've seen the shirt that I'm wearing, it says fueled by frijoles, and on the back it says no crashes, no flagging, no landings. This shirt is also, just like my book, printed, I'll do it then. Printed in the most eco-friendly way possible. The price tag is expensive, they're $39.99, but you're supporting the dream team in Iowa who get young people on bikes, and they have this 5-month program where they teach them how to ride bikes, they take them on rides, and the culminating event is Rag Ride, where they take these young people, very cool, and ride across Rag Ride. And I got to meet a lot of them last year at Rag Ride. Who's all doing Rag Ride? Oh yeah! It's such an amazing event. And so the dream team is getting all of the money for these shirts. I'm not making any money. Priority's losing money on the deal. They're the ones that paid for all of this. And so again, it's important to me to make quality content that I feel like is bringing value to the world, but also with the merchandise that I've done, I try to have a small carbon footprint. It's time that we start thinking this way. And it's important for me that these aren't just fast fashion. If you watch Climate Town, there's a whole episode about fast fashion and how bad it is for the planet. Yeah. So let's see. This is a Priority and Friends t-shirt, and it's going that way. Woo! Yay! You just won. What are these orange ones? What's this? Is this like a Halloween shirt? Ooh. Oh, this is a Priority Adventure Center t-shirt. So if you live in this area, now you can go check out Priorities at the Adventure Center at XtraCycle. They're actually going to have Priorities. It's the first time ever Priorities are like in a shop. They're usually only online only. So it's exciting that they have a spot here in Northern California. We know you Northern California people like to ride bikes. Yeah. So we're going to go all the way over here. Right to you, buddy. They're hard to get these to go very far. So the gentleman I just gave a t-shirt to is my friend Mike. And a lot of you have seen the Thursday night cruiser ride in my videos, right? Oh, it's so fun. If you're ever in Boulder, please come on the Thursday night cruiser ride. It's a casual, fun ride where we get together, we honk horns, we ring bells, we get dressed up and be goofy. It's not about getting exercise, it's about being part of the community, and it's fun loving. Anyway, I met Mike on the cruiser ride in 1999, long time ago. And at the time, there were no Bluetooth speakers. That didn't happen, but Mike is an engineer, and he figured out a way to have a Bob trailer, a big loud stereo powered by what? Car batteries? Yeah, some big batteries, and he was the coolest guy in the world because he had a bike that could carry a stereo. And we'd always have these awesome dance parties, and that gave him the name Music Man Mike. And he's here today, and I haven't seen Mike since then. He moved to the it's so exciting that you're here, buddy. And if that t-shirt's too big, I'll get you a different size. It might be big. Yeah. All fine. I don't want to throw any more of these into the crowd. I'll just give them away. But let's start the signing process. We'll get this show on the road. We can continue. We can hang out. There's still light out. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight. It means the world to me. I love you. And I love you guys too. You're wonderful. Here we go. I'm gonna hit the stop button on this.